The courtroom is one of the few places where truth, respect, and order stand above everything else. It's not a stage for arrogance, not a theater for mockery, and certainly not a place to play games. Yet in this particular case, one young defendant didn't seem to understand that simple truth. What unfolded that day would become a powerful lesson, not just for the defendant, but for everyone who has ever underestimated the seriousness of a judge's authority. From the very beginning, the atmosphere was tense. The young individual, clearly nervous but masking it with bravado, walked into the courtroom with a smug grin plastered across their face. Instead of humility, instead of remorse, what we saw was defiance. They leaned back in their chair, arms crossed, giving off the energy of someone who thought the whole process was beneath them. When the judge entered, the room instantly quieted. The formality, the respect, the weight of justice filled the air. But instead of standing with dignity, the defendant smirked, almost as if daring the judge to notice. And notice the judge did. Judges, after all, don't just hear words. They read body language, tone, and attitude. At first, the judge remained calm and measured. They addressed the case with neutrality, asking the defendant basic questions: name, age, and acknowledgement of the charges. But the defendant's responses were curt, dismissive, and delivered with a sarcastic edge. To anyone else in the courtroom, it was clear. This was a person who didn't take the law seriously. The smirks continued. Each time the judge tried to explain the severity of the case, the defendant would roll their eyes, shrug, or even chuckle quietly under their breath. It was the kind of arrogance that makes onlookers uncomfortable, because everyone knows sooner or later that kind of behavior meets a hard wall of reality, and that reality came faster than expected. The judge leaned forward, their voice firm but calm, and asked the defendant if they understood the charges against them. Instead of answering with respect, the defendant laughed, shook their head, and gave a half-hearted reply that dripped with sarcasm. The courtroom gasped softly. You could feel the tension rise. The judge's patience, which had been steady up until now, began to fade. That's when the turning point arrived. The judge's tone shifted, no longer patient, no longer soft. The calm, almost fatherly approach vanished, replaced by authority, power, and a sharp reminder of what a courtroom truly represents. The judge raised their voice, slamming down the message with clarity. This was not a game. This was not a place for jokes or arrogance. This was a legal institution where every word and every action had consequences. The smirk disappeared. For the first time, the defendant's mask of confidence cracked. Their eyes widened slightly. The room grew heavy with silence, the kind of silence where everyone knows a lesson is being taught right before their eyes. The judge then laid out the harsh reality, the potential penalties, the fines, the possible jail time, and the long-term consequences of a conviction. They explained how every action in court, every word spoken, every disrespectful gesture could make things worse. They reminded the defendant that respect for the court isn't optional, it's mandatory. As the judge continued, the weight of the words pressed down harder and harder. You could see the arrogance draining away from the defendant's face, replaced by fear, realization, and eventually, humility. That once cocky smirk was completely gone, replaced by the wide-eyed stare of someone who had just been forced to confront the reality of their situation. The spectators in the courtroom sat frozen, some nodding in agreement with the judge's words. Others whispered quietly, almost in disbelief at the transformation they were witnessing.